Hey guys, my name is Lauren. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to talk about watering your plants. I'm going to talk about the different stages from seeds to seedlings to plants that are more mature and what works best for me and how I water them. Over the years I've tried different ways of watering, and it really a lot of times I was doing it in very bad ways that I didn't realize could hurt my plants. And so I wanted to share with you my experience and hope to help you be a better gardener. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about when I start seeds in seed trays. So when I start my seeds in seed trays, over the years I have watered with a hose or a watering can. And that can give you some germination, but I noticed that for me, it didn't work the best for me. I was having very poor germination rates. I would be planting like a whole tray of peppers, and I might get 2 or 3 pepper plants for that whole tray, and it was just not as successful as I'd like it to be. So, and it could also move your little seeds around if you're using too heavy of a spray on your hose setting, or if you are just over watering. It can be hard to tell. I tried using a mister as well, and I have had better results with a mister. So my husband bought me this garden hose setting, and it does have a misting setting on here, right there, mist. And what you can do is you can start the set that to mister, and when you mist the seed trays, it's a lot more gentle. It doesn't move the seeds around in the tray because it's not too heavy of a flow. It's a lot more successful. I use the mister when I direct sow my seeds into the ground, so like beans and cantaloupes or watermelons, squash, those kinds of things, or carrots. I will use the mister in my garden bed regularly, making sure that I get good seed germination, and be careful, especially with those carrots, not to move them around a lot, because carrots can be difficult to have good germination of. So, but when I start with the seed trays, I used that, and I realized that I was coming out here twice a day, sometimes 3 times a day, watering my plants because they would dry out so quickly. So what I do now is I use these trays underneath, and you can buy these anywhere, really. You can buy big packs of them. I just get mine from Amazon, but it's a watering tray, and it has no holes in it. And then I put my seed trays on top of it, like this, and then I just make sure every day there's some water in the tray for the plants. And then the plants will, the soil soaks it up through the bottom of the tray, and the plant roots can easily access the water with no problem. This is what I found works best for me for the highest amounts of germination and for ease, in case I'm not always home 100% of the time. So some days I would miss my second or third watering, and they would dry out with the mister, and so this seems to work a lot better for me. Okay, so right here, this is cardinal basil that I've directly sown. When I direct sow my seeds, I use the mister setting, and I just make sure that I water it thoroughly. And I do come out and I water direct sown seeds twice a day if possible, in the morning and in the evening, just to make sure that they're constantly wet. And where I live, the sun is very strong, and it can dry out your soil fairly quickly. So I just wanted to make sure that I'm getting a good seed germination rate. So I did come out twice a day to water when I direct sow, and I use the mister to not disturb the roots, or I mean the seeds, like not to move them around. So I direct sowed these basil here, and I got pretty good germination on this, which I'm happy about, because this was the rest of my seed that I had for this variety. So now I can let this grow and go to flower, and I can save the seeds and have more. So these are my Christmas pole lima beans, which I also directly sowed, and this is a good example of a larger seed being used with the mister. I'm not super careful with these because they're much bigger and heavier than the basil or carrots, and they don't move as easily. And so you don't have to worry so much about it being super heavy, the water pouring heavily onto them. But I got 100% germination with these lima beans by using that same watering method. So once I get my plants planted out into the garden, I will start watering every day at first until I feel comfortable that the roots have reached down and made a good foundation in my garden bed. And once I feel, usually that's about 1 week or 2 weeks, and then once I feel that they're settled in really well and are comfortable and are not in shock at all from transplanting, then I start watering every other day. Now, it's also important that you remember what time of day that you water your plants. That can be very important. A long time ago, I used to water my plants whenever it was convenient for me, once a day, and I would do it in the middle of the day when the sun was out bright and shining. Now, my rooster wants to say hello to everybody, apparently. But this is not a good idea. As you can see, the foliage on my plants is very green and healthy. There's no brown spots or yellowing on the edges. So what happens if you water your plants in the middle of the day when the sun is out, especially where I live where the sun is very hot, the water can actually be burned onto the leaves from the sun. And so that will give your plants a lot of browning, a lot of yellowing and burning, and it can make your plants really struggle if you continue to water that way. So what I recommend is watering very, very early in the morning or in the evening time. For me, very early in the morning is not really practical. I have very young children, and so they're up very early in the morning, and it's just very difficult for me to get out here to water. So I do mine in the evening time, and that just works best for me. And that way the plants have all night to soak that water in. And of course, this plant is wet from just the dew in the morning, or the mist, that comes up from the earth naturally. I just make sure that I'm being very careful that I'm not watering over all of the foliage. Here's an example. This is a watermelon plant. I don't water any of this. I only water at the base of the plant right here where the root system is. And that really helps not to have the moisture on the leaves of the plant. So when I'm watering, I do my best to water at the base of the plant to not get the foliage all wet in the evening, and that really helps with mildew issues or powdery mildew or the yellow spot issues with the moisture being on the leaves. So I really hope that answered some questions about watering and the best way and the best time and what works best for me. Everyone does it differently and figures out what works best for them, but this is just what I've learned over the years. I think bottom watering just is the best for me for seedlings and sprouts. And once I get them in the ground, I just water them in the evening time, trying my best not to get the foliage wet. And that just works best for me, and I've had good success with this. One day I would love to have irrigation system set up, but right now my garden's just not big enough for me to really also we have so much rain where I live regularly that I really would only need it in the fall and winter time, so for regular watering. So currently I just hand water, and that's what works best for me. I hope this helped. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and harvest my sweet banana peppers to make, we'll see if I have enough to make some pickled peppers. Sweet banana peppers will actually turn red if you let them ripen on the vine. Or I mean, on the vine, on the plant. It's actually like a bush. But when mine start to turn orange, mine usually set fruit at the same, all the fruits pretty much start at the same time. So when they start turning orange, that's when I go ahead and start harvesting them. I'm just sticking them here in my bucket. This plant was dormant the last few weeks, and this is the first harvest I'm getting from it as it's started coming back. And so a lot of these fruits are pretty small, and that's okay. They will get bigger over the season. So these really small ones I'm gonna leave like these here, but I'm gonna take any that I feel are big enough. So as you can see, this one is super small and it's turning orange. That's okay. I can still pickle it. Instead of making these into rings like I usually do, I may just cut them in half long ways and like maybe quarter them, and I'll pickle them that way because they're so small. So you really probably, if you're harvesting peppers, you really don't want to be sitting here pulling them off like this with your fingers. I'm trying to be very careful and mindful of what I'm doing as to not to break my plant, but you can easily snap whole and branches off of your plant, so you really want to be careful. I my little garden snippers actually broke recently, and I can't find my other ones, so for now this is just gonna work. And I didn't think to grab a knife before I came out here. So I also have this other plant over here which has a few decent sized ones on it, so I'm going to go ahead and take those in. And usually after I harvest my peppers, it's been about 3 weeks since I've fed them. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a feeding later this evening in place of just regular watering. For my peppers, I use fish emulsion fertilizer. Ooh, that one was hard to get off. See, I got part of the branch, but that's okay. It wasn't bad. And this little one is turning orange. I think you can see it. There we go. So we'll take that one too. Let's see. I think I've got most of them that are, you know, big enough. These are all still really little, and I'll let these stay on the plant until they're fully mature. Okay, it's gotten a lot brighter out here since I started this video. Thanks for hanging out with me today, guys, and I'll see you next time.